Everyone, and welcome back to the Real Film Podcast, the podcast that chats about film, TV, and games. And with each series, we tackle a different series or topic. In this third episode of our From Software series, we'll be finally getting away from Dark Souls. Let's chat about Bloodborne. I'm your host, Matt, and I'm joined by Guff, Rob, and Sam for the Night of the Hunt.
Hey.
Hello.
I like that.
That was good, wasn't it?
Were you reading that off a script?
Yeah, I've got my little script here.
I was looking. You were looking to the side. I mean, people aren't going to be able to know this.
Night of the Hunt, is it?
Behind closed doors.
I was going to say we are all locked inside, and that's very much like. Oh, but that just doesn't make us hunters, though, does it? That just means we're the fucking peasants of Yarnum.
We're the people on the inside going, "Go away!"
You got anywhere safe to go that won't turn me into an alien?
Spoilers. Yeah, so we're still in quarantine, so this is, again, all over Skype. And yeah, as I said, we're talking about Bloodborne. So I thought we'd chat about a bit of how much Bloodborne we've played to start off. So Rob, you played Bloodborne and gave up and then came back.
Yeah, I gave up for like a year because I didn't understand what the game was or how to play it, really.
That's good.
And it was really hard, so I was just like, I can't do it. Because I didn't understand. I didn't understand the way of playing. Like, these games have a very specific rhythm to them. And once you get it, it's fine. But if you don't know that when you jump into it, then it's really hard. When bearing in mind I'd played like Call of Duty and FIFA, and that was kind of like Uncharted, stuff like that. It is quite a step up.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about that a bit more later in my segment, actually. And Sam, you've never played, am I right?
Yeah, no, you're right in saying that. I mean, I was just going to say that Rob's eyes were yet to open. All that. That's one of the people, right? Fucking eye boy.
Big
yeah,
eye.
there's plenty of eyes in Bloodborne. It's all about eyes.
But no, yeah, no, I've never played the game. I mean, I feel like I'll definitely come up with like what Rob's experience would have been. Going from like replaying Dark Souls Remastered now to now going in to play Bloodborne after this. If that was the transition I was to go, I imagine I'd find it very much a much different game. Just from looking at it, it looks totally alien to what was happening there, no pun intended. But it's, I think, knowing now that it is challenging and having that kind of a look at it probably gives me a bit more. I'm trying not to use the word insight because I know that's just another fucking. I'm trying not to say these words, but they're all I can think of now. But I feel like I would persevere a bit more with it now that I know, well, at least one of the payoffs of, say, doing the story in a certain way. Yeah,
and basically I've played it once, no, 1.5 times actually, because I played it after I'd played Dark Souls 3, so I was like pretty into the game. As we kind of mentioned last time, we all kind of got into the From Software series via Prepare to Try, the YouTube series. So I was pretty invested in it. I kind of knew the story, and I think Bloodborne I played along with their playthrough, so I was kind of nicely, as I mentioned last episode, getting that exploration of being able to figure stuff out on my own, but then having a video playthrough that I was watching at the same time, where if I missed anything, I could go back and like discover that thing. And I played it through once, and then I did start New Game Plus, and one of the things I did miss was fighting Lawrence, and that's where I've stopped my New Game Plus, because that's that's
a good. Like, I think I skipped him actually on purpose because I was just like, I can't. I don't need this sort of grief
I can't
in my
even.
Life. Yeah, I was like, I can't even just really control it.
Yeah, I've got like that with that boss, because the boss runs a bit of a pain in the arse as well.
Yeah, it's a long boss run, isn't it?
And then literally just decks you, and you're dead, and you have to go back, and it's so annoying. But yeah, that's my experience. And Guff, you're currently playing through for the second. Well, no, you're attempting to do a playthrough for the second time.
Yeah, I'm not. I sort of gave it a bit of a well, not like deliberately, but I just fell off it a little bit. I think I was playing it around about the time that sort of like God of War came out, so like last year. So like I just sort of diverted to God of War and then just had different games since. But jumping back on it. That wasn't. not a fun experience jumping back into that game. Because again, sort of like referencing Prepare to Try, like I've been having it on sort of in the background for the last few days, like just catching up on, or like rewatching, I should say, like the Prepare to Try series. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm like really itching to play this again. And again, because the controls especially are not like conventional games. Like I'd say the sort of layout of like the controller layout is a bit alternative, compared to sort of other, I would say like maybe adventure games or things along those lines. Oh fuck! It is such a rough experience. Like there's a sort of like really low level enemy compared to the rest of the game that is just these big knobheads in sun hats and cloaks with just Scream mask-esque faces, and they're just chilling outside this church and they just deck you. And like I forgot all the controls and I just kept getting fucking sparked out every 3 seconds. I was like, great, this is me now for a bit. So yeah, I'm trying to relearn the controls and really get back into the swing before I attempt any of the bosses, because otherwise that's going to be fucking awful.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, do you want to chat a little bit about being a Bloodborne noob?
Yeah.
Should we just segue into that?
Why not? Yeah, so I think it's maybe appropriate to sort of start this episode with sort of my perspective, because it's fucking rough, man. These games, I mean, Rob's touched upon it a little bit in like the previous episodes, but these games, you are in a world that is just out to hurt you. I imagine it's a lot of what Australia's outback's like with animals. Just everything wants to kill you. It's why I've never been to Australia. I imagine it's all like Bloodborne. No, I don't need that in my life. Like, again, I sort of avoided these games for a long time, sort of, before I could appreciate the story, before I could appreciate sort of the world building and how much sort of, I suppose, like, before I could really appreciate them for, like, really, really good pieces of art. I thought they were just sort of normal RPGs. And, I sort of looked at Dark Souls and just saw Dragon Age, Skyrim, all these kind of things that were just, sort of medieval-based sort of RPGs. And I was like, one that's designed to make me angry, I don't need in my life. I don't need that negativity there. So, but then, like, because of, like, but I'm quite, I've always been sort of, like, had a bit of an interest in, like, sort of, like, gothic horror stuff, like, so, like, werewolves, vampires, sort of stuff, little emo kid that I am. So yeah, Bloodborne always sort of like appealed to me, but having that sort of edge of, it's just a rage game. I think it's maybe where I don't think a relationship with Bloodborne is healthy, because like I love the aesthetic and I love the world building, I love the story, I love the way it tells the story, I love that from From Software games. But the game still is designed to make you angry. There is no other way to explain it. These games want you. They want you to suffer. They do want you to suffer. But as we touched upon previously, they are to make you work hard and earn what you get. But there is suffering involved in that. So, yeah, that from like someone jumping in. I mean, we've referenced Prepare to Try a lot. I think why that series is so successful is because the concept of it, for anyone who doesn't know, is there is someone who hasn't played it before, is very used to sort of like conventional adventure games, things like first-person shooters, things like that, and then jumping into obviously these sort of extraordinary games, and having to change pace, having to get used to a different control scheme and all this. And from someone who hasn't played a From Software game, this game is aggressive. Like, it is an aggressive learning curve. And I think, considering there is a whole point of Bloodborne that this is more aggressive.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, do you feel like, I know you were saying in the kind of intro that the reason you fell off it the first time around was because, there were the games out and like other things getting in the way, and obviously these games take kind of a certain level of commitment to get back into, especially as you were kind of mentioning about like the buttons and the style you have to play it in are quite different. Like, was the difficulty a aspect that first time around that you were kind of like, yeah, I want to play it, but oh God, it's difficult. I'll play something that I'm not gonna have to bang my head against the wall to get through.
That's a really good point, actually. Interestingly, no. Like, I think if it was, say, for example, I'd bought God of War, and there was, like, it was sort of sat there waiting, this game that I knew I really wanted to play, that everyone was talking about, that I'd heard great reviews for. If that was sat there, and then I'd just gone, well, you know what, I'm going to start Bloodborne first, I think the difficulty spike may have been the reason I'd be like, I'm turning this off right now. And then jumping over to a game that, yeah, is a bit more sort of, like, familiar. But honestly, like, sort of where I stopped playing was I was really into it. And, like, you know, you've talked about it before, you know, in previous episodes about Dark Souls, but, you know, that sort of reward that you get from sort of failing and, you know, getting up, trying again, all that sort of stuff, that was definitely in full swing. I think it was just sort of these games were more contemporary at the time, and I think as well because Bloodborne, I'd watched Prepare to Try, I knew the story, I was a lot more familiar with it. It didn't feel like an urge for me to sort of delve in while, you know, God of War was relevant, and I didn't want it spoilt for me, and I really wanted to play the game. I'd been waiting for a sequel for 10 years, but
no, that's completely fair enough. Yeah, and where did you like get up to that first kind of time round? Like, how deep? Because have you completely started again, or have you gone back to that old save?
Oh no, I'm back on the other save, like, because I wasn't far in at all. It was absolutely pointless for me to start again. I think because it would just be more infuriating. But no, I'm past the second boss, or like the first, I suppose, actual sort of real boss, because the first boss that a lot of people sort of attempt is Cleric Beast. But that is an optional boss. Or it's the first, I suppose, like, again, watching Prepare to Try and being my first frame of reference for Bloodborne, that's how they did it. So I think as soon as I sort of got to that area, and I was like, you know, the bridge in sort of Old Yarnum, I was a bit like, oh, here's the Cleric Beasts sort of spot. So I'll try and fight them. But yeah, I got just past Gascoigne, which is sort of the main, I'd say the first sort of main boss that you would probably encounter. Main story boss, and yeah, that's about as far as I got.
No, I think I was going to say, when you were saying about that kind of it's kind of jumping back to another point you just said about you'd watched the Prepare to Try series, so there wasn't that kind of level of intrigue about it, and I like really get that, because I think, as I said earlier, I was kind of playing it along with watching their playthrough, just trying to stay that little step ahead, and then if I missed anything, I'd then backtrack and go and like experience that thing later on. And I'm really, really glad I did it that way, because I think, as Rob's going to go on to in his segment after this, it gets pretty mad. Like, really, really. Like, obviously, yeah, we'll say spoilers. Like, there's you know, if you don't want to know anything about Bloodborne, then just turn off now, go play it, then come back and listen. It gets aliens. There's aliens in this, and I remember like running through the Forbidden Woods and just coming across these aliens and just being like, I hadn't watched that episode of Prepare to Try, wasn't out yet, so as I said, I was purposely trying to stay ahead, and I just remember being like, what is happening? And I kind of feel like if I'd had maybe all of that explained to me, I wouldn't have been as inclined to keep going back and playing it, because you kind of go, well, I know what happens, and they do delve quite a lot into like the secrets and like the little corners and that sort of thing, so maybe you wouldn't want to. So I'm really glad I played it in the way that I played it, because I got the exploration and the shock of what was coming, but then I also, because of them, got the full experience as well.
That's interesting, because, like, yeah, I suppose because I wasn't playing it at that time, I started obviously seeing it through a different lens, and I think it's actually a real testament to sort of how, like you said, sort of again in the previous episodes, like sort of how rewarding these games can be when it is tough and like you are struggling, you know, and it's you know, there's a point to be made with Bloodborne. There's sort of a joke that's thrown in, or like it's inferred that it's a joke about Dark Souls, that there's like you can pick up a shield, like a little wooden shield, in the game, and it's sort of like its description sort of makes like infers the idea of it's gonna do fuck all for you in this, because you know in Bloodborne you have either like a blunderbuss or like a pistol, and these are sort of like your parry weapons, like they help you parry against beasts, they help you sort of like lower defenses, you know, for opportune times and things like that. And there's no real defending, it's just dodging. It's just dodging and sort of playing smart. It's like playing smart, and it's like, well, obviously in Dark Souls, you have like a plethora of shields you can use for different types. This game is far more aggressive. So to be the first From Software game that I had, and then having such an aggressive trudge, I think that's the thing. But I think, again, going from a game... Yeah, I think it was a testament to these games, sorry, was the point I was trying to make, that even though I knew the story, I was still there for the gameplay, I was still there for the reward. And again, I'd watched this series several times and was just like, oh, I know where all these people are. Like, I know all these areas, I know all this stuff, I know the story of it. But I am here purely for the gameplay now, which I don't think I've ever had with a game. So before that, which is good. But
I think what you're describing there is getting good. I believe that's his... Yeah, but no, I've got to agree, because obviously knowing now the story, and especially the ending that series ends up having after they've played through the entirety of the game, like, I'm interested now, like, coming in from the outside as someone who's never played this game ever and has only seen exposure from those bits. I feel there is still avenues that you can explore that haven't been touched on, that which it does still give you that reward of, like, maybe the big story beats are still they're covered, obviously, but I still think there are like little bits where you can find your own sort of like rhythm for things, and finding your own sort of little areas that maybe you've not come across or have not seen by watching that series. So no, I've got to say, like, it's coming in from someone who now knows the story for the majority of it, it still excites me just as much to sort of come in and actually try this game as a new player, especially from the way you've described the mechanics of how it works as well.
Well, I think, like, sort of, yeah, going off your point a little bit there, actually, like, about sort of like different avenues and things like that. You know, we all like massive fans of Try, and, like, you know, we've rewatched them a few times, but with, you know, they do go back several times to the Dark Souls games, and they've not really touched upon Bloodborne as much. You know, so I think there is sort of a lot of different, maybe not like as many as Dark Souls, but there is definitely sort of, like, say, different approaches to playing that game, different sort of endings, different sort of quest lines you can go down that obviously will give sort of a different take on the story than what they did. Yeah, which is, I'd not thought about it very much that way, but yeah, I had another point after what you said and I can't remember what it was now. Oh well.
Well done, Sam. Ruining Guff's flow.
I'm always here to derail the argument. Not the argument, the
the
conversation when I need to.
I think I derailed myself, because I think I was like, it was following on from Sam's point. So it's more, that's all on me. Don't blame Sam. I forgive you, Sam. It's fine. You cretin. No, but I think it is one of those things where it's like with Bloodborne, like, say, it's a lot more sort of linear than Dark Souls and things like that. But I think, sorry, that was the point I was going to make. So yeah, so Vati Vidya, I think I don't know which version of the name I'm saying. I'm sorry, Vati. No, but like I'm sure he has done like a lot of Bloodborne content. But I haven't watched it sort of as much as I've watched the Dark Souls stuff. But I think it's because like Bloodborne has sort of much more linear. While there's sort of this, you know, I mentioned it in like the previous episode, but like there's a mythology that has been sort of crafted by Dark Souls, and it is like the idea of, you know, oh, who was this character that, you know, was never mentioned or like barely mentioned, and what did they do, and these like sort of hidden cities and things like that, and like translations from Japanese, you know, kind of illuminating different sort of potential histories of characters and stuff like that. There's like so much in the Dark Souls series to like sort of. I suppose there's just a lot of content there. It's why this guy's channel is incredibly like successful, because he's just been able to like deep dive so much into Dark Souls. But it feels like Bloodborne has maybe just a little bit less than that, and not like, you know, in a bad way, but it's definitely just a lot more linear. But so I think that definitely kind of goes with your point, Sam, where it's like taking slightly different quest lines. There feels like maybe there's some story that I still don't know, even though we have sort of watched, you know, Bloodborne. But go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this a bit in my segment, but about how you said it's more straightforward. I would argue it's the exact opposite. And I'll talk about a really good piece of online, I wouldn't call it literature, let's call it literature, that kind of goes into different Dark Souls stories in a way that I've not, like, whatever the YouTube guy's name is, he doesn't really go into, Bloodborne. Well, it's all the same, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the same. Just listen to the last episode we did. It's fine.
Why are we even bothering? Stop recording. Who fucking cares? They're all the same.
It's all good.
No, that's interesting though. That is a little teaser for later on.
Well, just to add on the back of Rob's point about it not being as linear, I will say Vatty's second most watched video is the story of Bloodborne explained, because I'm assuming that many people want to know what the story actually fucking is, because they probably don't get it. But Brothers Hall, you both went up at the same time there, so throw it to Matt.
No, I was quicker. No, I think there's a lot to analyse in there. There's so much to break down and so much to look into and delve into. But I think like the core story is more not linear. Linear is the completely wrong word, because it's not linear at all. But when it becomes clear, you kind of know where. It's not like Dark Souls where you kind of piecing it together a bit more yourself, I'd say, with a lot of the side characters and stuff. Why are you shaking your head?
Because I disagree completely, and my whole segment's about this, so I'll go into it. Why?
Okay, fair enough. Is that a good way to segue in?
Can if you want. I don't mind.
Let's do it.
Why are you getting angry?
I'm not. I'm just saying I disagree.
You're getting very angry about it. You are. I can see you getting wound up.
You're stepping on the toes of his segment.
Yeah, get out of my segment.
No, that's fine. No, yeah, fuck it. Just take my segment, mate. Why don't you fucking...
I'm not. Apparently I'm saying the opposite of his segment.
Well, you are, yeah. But we talk about it in my segment then. I'll see you in my segment later.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it now.
Can I see you in my segment for a minute, mate? Right, here we go. So my segment is basically about how Bloodborne is mental, and I think it's... what was that? Oh, you sent... That really distracted me now. Stop sending these pictures.
Sorry.
The little thing went in my head. I was like, oh, what's...
Can I say before you start, we have a spreadsheet that says what the segments are, and yours is, this game is mad and keeps getting madder, something Lovecraft.
Yeah, that's pretty... Sums up my... my segment pretty well. But like we kind of touched on it before, like to be sort of semi-serious, but like Dark Souls, the start of Dark Souls is explained for you in the first 5 minutes. Like you know what your job is from the moment you wake up in a graveyard, or wherever you wake. Where do you wake up in? Oh, in 1 you're in like the prison, aren't you? On 3 you're in the graveyard. You know like what the goal of your character is by the end of the game. You know kind of where you're going. And it's kind of like Lord of the Rings style. There's a lady explaining the story to you, and then you just kind of dropped into it. And I know like Dark Souls has all these interesting side quests and history and lore and mythology and stuff, and that's all really interesting. But what I love about Bloodborne is that you wake up and you have no idea what's happened, and it's like you've been given some blood by a weird guy, and you wake up and there's a beast in the corner, and you for the first few hours of the game you kind of think you've got an idea what's going on. And once you think you know what has happened, it does like a 180 and you're like, Jesus Christ, this is mad.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when rewatching Prepare to Try, starting from the beginning, and like that opening cutscene, I sort of forgot how, like, I was thinking back and I was like, I actually don't know I don't know what happened there. Like, because, sort of in the intro, like you say, you see a beast in the corner. Well, like crawls up onto the sort of a hospital bed that you're lying on, and then he just sets on fire and dies. And then you see all these weird creatures like come over you, and I was like, they say it in the commentary and Prepare to Try. It was like, did they do that? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know what happened. I don't know why that man set on fire. I don't know why those creatures do sort of like get over you. And I was like, I don't know if that. And I thought I knew the game quite well, so yeah, maybe. Yeah. I'm already on your side again. Then. There you go.
It is a mad game though. Like, the way like, and the twist is, yeah, basically aliens, and that comes through probably like a third of the way through a game, I guess.
Insert History Channel meme of that guy.
Yeah, aliens.
That is what it is, though. And then it becomes this kind of, it goes from this kind of old, kind of gothic kind of horror into this kind of Lovecraftian weird. There's scientists doing weird things, and what I love about Bloodborne is that we're saying it's more straightforward, it's more less ambiguous than Dark Souls. Is that okay? You kind of get that there's aliens, but there's so many different characters and different factions within the kind of NPC characters. I don't think that necessarily comes across unless you really invest in the game. And I think it does the thing that Dark Souls does. It tells this story really well, but it tells it, I think, with far less exposition than Dark Souls does. And it still leaves stuff quite ambiguous. Like there's so many different NPC moments where you think are they on the same side or on the opposite sides. There's different hunter factions that kind of work differently and have different theories. There's like Lawrence and Willem. People are nodding that.
Yeah,
you said you knew these games well.
Mine blank.
Come on now.
Shut up. There's these two guys who have
Willem.
the kind of scholars, and they have different opinions on the way to use this blood. And there's different kind of, like, there's characters like Rom. Like, what is Rom? There's this like, there's something that I'll point everyone to, which is it's a Google doc, but it is a piece of literary work basically about Bloodborne. It's called The Pale Blood Hunt, and it's written by a guy called, or a girl, don't know, called
Steve
Redgrave. Yeah, it's by someone called Redgrave. Did you know that?
Is it?
No, I thought that's why you said it. No, it might be Steve Redgrave. It could be, but it's someone called Redgrave who, and I assume they're anonymous. But it's a Google doc, and it's called The Pale Blood Hunt. And
what, anonymous is in the online thingy?
It's Miyazaki. It's Miyazaki. Yeah. He's just like, no one's got my story. Oh, I guess I'm going to have to explain it to everyone and pretend I'm some other person.
But
I'm really glad you didn't put an accent on it.
I don't really know where he's from, so I don't think I could. I mean, he's from Japan, isn't he?
We've heard Guff's Miyazaki impression before. We know what that sounds like.
Let's not pretend I've ever even done that. I don't want it going on record. Even as I've never done that. Sam, however.
But like, yeah, going back to Bloodborne. Quickly going back to Bloodborne. I do think that the general arc of it is more ambiguous. Like, okay, so they found like a god essentially that had been left behind. They call it Left Behind Great One, and kind of what they do with that. If you read this piece of work, it's really ambiguous, and it comes up with so many different ideas that I didn't necessarily think of. About what they're doing with the blood and what they're trying to do with the blood, and kind of there's a whole thing around like children in Bloodborne, and there's loads of like empty carriages and stuff. If you early on in the game, there's loads of empty like baby carriages, and there's loads of cool theories about like what they were doing these kids and who was doing what with the kids, not in a Nancy way, probably. I don't know.
Sorry, all I was thinking of it.
As soon as I said it, I was like, yeah.
I'm getting the word nonce.
But yeah, I think it really encourages you to come up with your own theories. And there's the stuff with like, there's a character called Koz as well, and it's a washed-up great one in a shipping village. And like, there's loads of cool theories about that. And there's these parasites, and there's just so much stuff that do generally pass you by if you don't pay attention to even the littlest point in it. But they're kind of integral parts to the whole plot, and kind of, I feel like a lot of people, things I've seen about Bloodborne is people think that it's not as a rich story as Dark Souls, or it's not as kind of fleshed out as Dark Souls, but I think it's more stripped back in the game to encourage you to kind of piece it together more yourself. Is the way that I see it, and I really would suggest everyone read this thing because it's an incredible, like, I don't know how long that must have taken, but it's like item descriptions like pieced together and how they all fit and how all the pieces of the puzzles fit together. I think it's a genius game. It is my favourite Soulsborne game.
Yeah, so I've read that document. I'm completely agreeing with everything you've just said. Most of it, anyway. As you may be surprised after our little argument in the first segment. Maybe it's because maybe I phrased it wrong. Maybe because I've read that document as well, and I think it is Fatty who, I think Sam mentioned it. Like, he does a really broad kind of one about like Bloodborne explained, which he hasn't really done for Dark Souls. His Dark Souls videos are generally like, here's this character, here's that character, where he did kind of one like on Bloodborne as a whole. So I feel like because I've read so much of Bloodborne, it all feels like fact. Like, kind of what I've taken from it feels like fact, whereas what I kind of more meant about Dark Souls being a bit more ambiguous is that it feels like that kind of broken history kind of thing of like stuff changing and people going, like, as I say, when, like, as we mentioned in the first episode, when they don't know who Solaire is in 3, I think I felt like that was more what I meant by ambiguous, and you kind of taking those bits and going, okay, well, they don't know who he is, but there's this and there's that. Whereas, like, maybe it's because I've read so much on Bloodborne, because I feel there is more out there in terms of people being definitive on what they think it is than there is with Dark Souls. Maybe that's why I kind of felt that way about it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, sort of it's going off like your point, Matt, there. Like, I think that's sort of like what I meant, maybe like in previous episode about like mythology, is that like if you look at like ancient mythology, especially like Greek mythology, they're sort of like passed down stories so much that the like certain things change. I remember being a kid, like reading a lot of Greek mythology and being like really infuriated that there's no definitive story. I was like, because it is sort of just different people's interpretation of like those. But yeah, I think like what's really cool about sort of Bloodborne is, and again, I mean, I've never read Lovecraft, and I don't know much about the Lovecraft sort of like universe, but you know, it's very sort of heavily inspired by that. It does feel, you know, maybe it is because there's werewolves and stuff, but it almost feels sort of like well, it's, you know, it's very Victorian-esque, and I think it feels like sort of a Victorian sort of almost like horror mystery sort of, there is that element to that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've got a very good point there about yeah, good.
It's a good game, isn't it?
All round.
I do genuinely think it's. I just love the story, and I think that the themes and stuff in the story is just so. I just think I think everyone needs to play it. They should make a. I don't know. I'm upset that, you know, like we talked about in previous episodes about. You said like people who don't play games would love this story, Matt. Like, I feel this way about Bloodborne. I'm always like, oh, I wish I could show people this without them having to play a 50-hour game to experience it, because they're not going to do it.
Here's something. Here's like a question to like all of yous. Like, you know, you were saying that like sort of, especially with Dark Souls, like that is a story. Maybe it is because of sort of the ambiguity in sort of it's like almost like build your own adventure sort of situation to it, at least a little bit. Maybe that is only translatable through sort of game. But would you think the story of Bloodborne could translate as a TV show? Because I think
it probably could.
I think because apart from the fact that, you know, sort of what you get from these games is that you build your own character and it is your character that is doing it. Like, you know, and there's no sort of like one lead. You haven't got like a main character in Bloodborne or Dark Souls, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think I would fucking love to see a TV show about Bloodborne, actually. Like, thinking about like sort of all the elements and like, because it is mystery and things like that, and I think there's definitely a lot of elements, but it's a lot of elements that could be explained and just, again, left hanging in a way of, but like in a good way, where you're just like, it's like that right amount of ambiguity.
Yeah, I've never actually thought about it, but now, like, literally just off the top of my head, thinking about it, I think it would lend itself more to being interpreted into another medium than perhaps Dark Souls, and I think that is because it is so kind of story driven. But as you said, it has that shock factor, and like imagine like an episode where it ends with aliens. Imagine like you'd just be like, what is happening here? Like at all, and you'd have to actually add bits and pieces and bring stuff in. But I feel like with Dark Souls, it is a bit too bitty maybe to put that in like a film or a TV series. I'd maybe feel like, because as we kind of mentioned in the previous episodes, the fun is kind of going to those characters and picking the item descriptions, and you get that in Bloodborne as well. But I feel like there's ways you could maybe do it as another medium.
I think it's the mystery. Sorry to cut you off. I think it's the mystery of Bloodborne. You've definitely sort of like, yeah, it's like that. Again, I think that was the thing that really got me. Like, I think watching Dark Souls with Prepare to Try, I was like, I want to know the story, but like the story's already sort of ended. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you're sort of learning about like events in the past. Like, do you know what I mean? While in Bloodborne, it feels like everything's ongoing. It feels like you're uncovering like a mystery, like you're like that's still sort of happening. These experiments are still happening. This town is like, the whole aspect of it is that, there is this sort of yearly hunt in Yharnam where these beasts come out and hunters gather around to like kill them. But this is one particular hunt that has sort of gone awry, and like everyone's become sort of corrupted and hunters have become beasts. And it feels like current events, while Dark Souls feels like you're playing, you're sort of figuring out the past, like, you're sort of deciphering that. So I think, yeah, in that respect, like, Bloodborne would lend itself to me. And, I mean, I think one thing that I was really, like, loved is that whole thing about, Yusefka. Like, there's a character called Yusefka who you meet very beginning of the game, and then, spoilers, obviously for the game, but very subtly is replaced by an imposter later on. And also, like, the idea of, Odeon Church, there's that bloke in, like, the red garb, and he's a bit of a creature-looking type person, but, and he says, if you find any survivors, send them to me. And then you've got Yusefka, who's this, sort of well-spoken, soft-spoken woman behind a door who, like, is in the building that you started out on, and for all intents and purposes, you would think, he's an ally. And then, sort of the twist is that this imposter at least is experimenting on these people. So if you do send anyone back, they're gone. And obviously the bloke who's a bit more ghoulish looking, he's like protecting people. And I think those sort of things translate well, because there are twists and turns that I don't think you get any twists in Dark Souls. It feels just like clarification. It feels like going, maybe that's different, but it doesn't feel like oh my god, do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like a cliffhanger, while, like you say, you could, if you had the end of an episode, you see those fucking jelly-headed aliens pop up, you would sort of go, what the fuck is going on? Which I think is really good, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I said is, like, would that work in a TV show, or would people just go, nah, this is stupid now? Do you know what I mean? Like, would you kind of, I think with the game you kind of go, all right, I'm going to see where this is going, and then you get it explained and you go, this all makes sense, this is all brilliantly. Do you feel like people would maybe switch off and just go, what, this is getting, because sometimes I'm like that, do you know when stuff gets stupid and you're just like, they're just chucking stuff in there now?
I have a strong belief in this, because like this is like something that I think is a problem with like a lot of horror films in general, is that, like, I mean, sort of there's that whole thing of, as soon as you see the monster, it's not scary. But I think there's that whole thing of setting expectations. Like, when you watch a film that's like a ghost film, and like Paranormal Activity, for example, actually is a really good example for me, where I'm like, that is a film that sort of skirts the line of going, the first one at least is like, here's these people in a house recording paranormal goings on. And, I think, like, if that was the real world, I think you would go to the internet to figure out what's going on, because that's what most people would do. And they sort of like, they build this idea of what could be happening, and then like shit escalates, but it's still very ambiguous of what's going on. the later on films ruined that, where they sort of went really deep into supernatural lore and talked about witches and demons, and that's when it sort of lost me. But I was like, when it was sort of more ambiguous because you set a tone pretty well. I think the same could be said because like you have series like Twin Peaks that sort of they show you. I mean, I've never watched Twin Peaks, but from those bits that I've seen, like it feels like the way it's done, like in sort of the music, in the way that it's shot, in the sort of the quirky characters you meet early on, you sort of get like sprinkles of weird before the real weird kicks in, and it's sort of, I think if you can set the tone of going, things aren't what they seem on face value, even if everything is weird. Like, do you know what I mean? There is, if you're going around and you go, everyone seems actually more okay the fact that there's fucking werewolves knocking about, maybe that's like sort of the element of weird that's already there, because I think that is something that watching Prepare to Try It Again, you sort of see that, why is everyone okay with this? And like, there's this healing church, and some people are like, all really, like, just this town are really okay with drinking blood because it has these healing values. Like, that's like a weird element that I think would translate well into TV, because it's like shows like Legion, where, you know, that show is, you know, really early on, it's about a man with mental health issues, and you don't quite know what reality is, but it shows you through the way it tells the story that this is a bit of a weird thing and things aren't what they seem. So, oh God, I really, really want to see a Bloodborne show. Oh,
no,
shit.
I was just about to say, imagine like millions of people just like believe in something that someone says just because like it was written in a book
Stop
once.
this right now. No, absolutely.
Imagine.
Get off. Get it off. Get it off. Back
imagine
away.
such a
Back
thing.
away. Nope. Let's not touch upon this.
Madness.
Oh, religion's mad, isn't it?
Like, drink this blood. Oh, that's so outlandish.
What about this little cracker that's not a cracker?
Yeah, Rob, do you want to
No, I'm good.
bring us back round?
We're done. done on this stuff.
Wrap it up. Wrap up the segment. I feel like that's not the best way to round off a quite intellectual segment.
Just you edit bits.
Piece. Yeah.
No, that's all.
I will end it.
Did I ever tell you the pedo hunters were on my street with a guy across the road?
So they didn't knock on your door, did they?
Guy across the
Yeah,
road.
it was across the road, I promise. But no, I remember checking Facebook. Well, no, it was the band. Like, I think Lucas sent it, being like, he said, "Sam, is this your street?" And I looked at it, and there was a guy. Like, I don't think I was there. I think I was. I think
I was, funnily enough, in Fiji at the time.
I think I was in Egypt.
Funnily enough, I was in another country. I was there for a while. It had been pre-planned. Trust me, I'd been definitely had. Where's an alibi?
On a different note, the guy across the road from me does look the same as me, but that's just a coincidence.
Now it's a bit weird though, because it looked like my side of the street, but you know, it mirrored image. I don't know if that's because it's TV.
My street just has a big mirror in the middle of it. It's just, but no, yeah. And then it was just some two knobheads stood at this guy's door, being like, "So are you a pedo?" Like basically that was the entirety of the conversation. It was a bit mad.
Good.
And then I think his mum's car got egged, which I was pretty sad about. I was like, "Oh, his mum didn't do out."
She raced a pedo, mate, so...
She did. To be fair, she did race a nonce. Yeah. It's probably not a good thing to have in your cap. Feather.
Makes a really good lasagna on one hand, on the other, raised a pedo. So
Can't have it all.
Swings around the mouth, isn't it?
Me? I've got to salvage this, have I now?
Yeah, it's your segment, isn't it?
Oh, great. Yeah, so, Bloodborne, really good story. I think that it does leave quite a lot up to you to kind of put the effort in to kind of piece it together yourself. And I would advise everyone to go read that Google doc I was talking about.
I'm going to read that tonight. Like, I've just got it up at the minute. I've just skim reading the first few pages, and it looks in depth. Yeah, it looks really thorough, which I was like, wow, this is impressive. And to be honest, that first few pages of just like, I wasn't a big fan of Dark Souls, but this is why it did really kind of put down like a clear picture of like Bloodborne does leave all this stuff up to, and it even mentions Demon Souls, which I know we're not talking about, but it does kind of get me interested about what maybe that might be like. So who knows? Next season won't be Demon Souls, but future, who knows?
I'll tell you what, yeah, to be fair, that was the only thing that sort of put me off that, is that like I expected it to be a much more bite-sizable read, and like I think I was like, it was like late on in the night when I'd seen it, and I was like, oh, I'll give this a quick read now, and it's like 500 pages. I was like, might give this a miss. Might come back to this when I've got a bit more time. But yeah, I do really want to read it now.
It is really good. Yeah, it's really good. I think, as Rob said, you should all read it if you're interested in Bloodborne. We'll post it on our Twitter.
Where did you find it?
I think I said it you, didn't I? I can't remember where I found it.
Google!
It appeared in an envelope on my front door, funnily enough. I didn't question it, but it just said, like, to Rob Hall.
I think
didn't question it, but had blood on it.
I found it in a river, and it was just, I could hear drums beating after it. Season 4!
Yarnum.
Season 4.
It's like that book, Finding Drago.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Varty actually recommended it on his channel. I think.
Oh, fair enough.
Go on. What was that full channel name that you just quoted there, Rob?
Yeah. You listen back to it.
Yep. That's the one.
Right, that's the end of the segment.
Yeah, cut there.
Right, so my segment is called This Ain't Dark Souls, because Dark Souls is good.
I really am aggressively against what you just said.
He doesn't even believe what he said.
I'm joking. I'm obviously joking. I've just said how much I like Bloodborne. Plus, in like the first episode, I said Dark Souls is probably my favourite just because I'm a fantasy fan. That's like literally probably the only thing that like splits these games for me. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about kind of, and Guff touched about it a bit before, just how the game kind of perfectly plays off kind of your expectations of Dark Souls, and like what you're probably going into this game as with a preconception of what you've played before, and then just twists it on your head because you can't play the game in the same way that you play Dark Souls. So obviously Dark Souls is quite like a cautious game. It kind of, you've generally have like a shield, and you're encouraged to block and parry with the shield. There's a bit of dodging involved, but generally, caution's better. And there's so many times in the game, like even in like the initial tutorial bit where you kind of you're in the undead asylum and it's kind of teaching you little tricks, and you kind of walk through this gate and two enemies come at you at once. It's kind of, but they come kind of through a narrow thing, and it's kind of encouraging you to like back off, take on one, and then take on the other. And it's got these little tricks in there just to teach you that's how you play this game. You need to be cautious. If you go too hard, you're basically gonna die. Like most of the time, that's kind of what happens. And like Bloodborne has little things in there of just going, if you play like that, you're going to get murked basically. Like as Guff said, there's like a shield, and like the item description of the shield, I'll try and find it in a minute actually, but it's basically saying this is useless, this is a load of rubbish. Yeah, if you try and play like this, then you're essentially just gonna die. And that is the point of the game, that it's so much more aggressive. Like there's a whole mechanic built into the game where if you're losing health, you can like attack an enemy, and if you get like hits in, you'll like reclaim some of your health. But that's never explained out. That's never like said in a tutorial. You don't pick up a scrap of paper or anything like that. You just have to kind of notice that on your own, that if you're low on health and you keep attacking, you get your health back. And I think probably loads of people probably miss that at first and kind of then go, what's happening? I don't understand. I was getting hit, but I've got full health. And maybe like they slowly work it out yourself. But there's that thing of going, it's encouraging you to play the game in a completely different way. And if you don't play it that way, you get hit, and in Dark Souls you would back off. If you play the game like that, then you're not getting like the full advantage of the game, which I just think is brilliant from Software to create a game that plays off those expectations of what you're coming into Bloodborne with on the back of that, because there are a lot of similarities in in kind of the way on like a base level. Obviously, like one's like gothic horror, one's kind of fantasy, but I feel like there are so many similarities and like mechanics that are similar, but there's enough different that it's interesting, and also kind of just trying to get you to play the game in a different way, which I just think's really, really cool. Like, there's no time for caution in this game. As Guff said, you've not got a shield. It's all about just dodging, getting in there, staying close. Like, you can't back off an enemy, really. You just got to stay close and get in there, which I think is really cool considering how, like, Dark Souls was set up and everything.
Yeah, I think that's, like, why I really like it. Like, it feels ballsier in a way. Like, it feels like when I'm playing, again, I've not played Dark Souls, but I feel like, you know, and I know it's like all these games are like just like you're surrounded constantly by just things that want to kill you, as you know I mentioned before. But I think there's the element of I can protect myself behind this shield. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you like see a low level enemy and like it just hits you, or you have just a moment of realization, you can block and you're all right. While it feels like in Bloodborne, you're like, you could be running through an area and just it feels like a gauntlet at times where there's just these things trying to fucking, because like at least with a shield you can sort of like right block, and then there's that window of them not attacking where you can just run. You've not taken damage, you can carry on. While if you sort of do that in Bloodborne, you can't block. You have to you either engage or you dodge, and if you don't dodge and you get hit again, you either have to engage to get your health back, or you just carry on running, and it does become like a gauntlet of just you just dodging, and yeah, it feels so much more aggressive just running through that world. Like, again, doing the sort of cleric beast run that I had to do a few times. Fuck me, it's just so annoying having to like dodge the, and like, but again, I felt like I just had to engage because otherwise I just couldn't be bothered with a slight whack in the back when health becomes everything you need in these games.
Yeah, it's like I think I started Bloodborne and then I dropped out, and then I played Dark Souls 3, and then I went from Dark Souls 3 to Bloodborne, and like you just feel naked in Bloodborne because there's literally nothing to hide behind, and it's kind of similar with Sekiro. You're kind of, and we'll get onto this in the next episode, but it's the same way you can kind of block a bit in Sekiro, so it's slightly different. But Bloodborne, there is no way of defending against anything, and it's also you've got like so in Dark Souls, for people who don't know, you have an Estus flask which refills every time you die. In Bloodborne, you don't have that. Your health items are finite, so if you have 20 and use 10, then you die, you wake up with 10, and then you lose the other 10, you've got nothing. That's like another part of it, like to try and keep you, so you can keep your health by counter-attacking, basically. And it's another kind of clever dynamic or mechanic that they've built into the game to make sure that you're not trying to hide, you're not healing all the time, you're not taking damage, you've got to avoid being hit.
But on the back of that, sorry, because I know you had a point, Matt, but like on the back of that, like I think that is the sort of thing with, like you say, you have to engage a little bit. It encourages you to sort of like get stuck in and like things like that, because like you said, everything's finite in that game, like, you know, like your blood vials, which is again something I actually didn't realise because I don't think I was paying attention that much that first time playing that, and I'd seen more of like, you know, sort of Dark Souls and things, you know, and sort of encouraging you to like get involved and things like that, and not really being able to hide and things like that. Like, I think, you know, with you saying that blood vials are finite and things like that, like there was so many times where like fighting Gascoigne, I rinsed my blood vials, and you know, you sort of, as tedious as that boss run can get, it becomes your saving grace as well, because obviously if you are in a situation like that, it becomes a case of just you know, it gets to a point where you're like, I know the enemies of this area, I know how hard I can hit them, I know sort of like how to sort of fight them, I know their moveset, sort of similar to how you get with bosses, but you sort of like know the enemies on the run, to the boss so well that it becomes easy to obviously farm them, and like, because that's the only way you can get them back is by just, well, it's not the only way. You do find them in like items like smashables and chests and things like that, but you do sort of, the majority of blood vials and silver bullets will come from the bodies of enemies. So I think those boss runs become like so integral if you are struggling. Well, I think again it plays to that whole aggressive nature of Bloodborne, because like saying, in a lot of ways, like as unforgiving as Dark Souls is, that's quite a forgiving element in comparison to Bloodborne. The fact that it feels a bit like From Software have gone like, if you thought Dark Souls was hard, we gave you a shield and this rechargeable health thing that you can rely on every single time. Well, this is like, you haven't got your shield, you little pussy boy. You haven't got your refillable health. Like, oh, you like your refillable health, is it? No way. You have to like farm that shit, and you have to like work for it. And like, again, I think that as much as I think pre-knowing these games that would have pissed me off, I love it now. I'm like, that's such a great way to get you engaged in a game.
Yeah, I think I might be skipping back a few points here, but with Rob saying about like I think it was Rob saying about like the dodging aspect and that sort of thing. It was really interesting because when I played Dark Souls 3, which is the first one I played, when I was playing through that for the first time, I got really good at like dodging. Like, I didn't use a shield because I was playing it through with our friend Paul, and eventually got to a point where he was like, you're not even using your shield anymore. You're two-handing the sword most of the time. Let's just dump the shield so you can be quicker in your rolls. And I defeated so many bosses like that just by dodging them. Like, I got quite good at that. So I think when I went into Bloodborne, I was pretty already set up to do the dodging. Like, I wasn't relying on blocking ever in Dark Souls at that point. But now I'm like genuinely terrified of going back into Bloodborne, because I'm like, I use my shield all the time now, and I'm trying to get out of the habit, because I like, obviously it uses up your stamina using your shield. Your stamina doesn't regenerate as quickly. If you can dodge them, you can usually get around the back, get some backstabs in. So I know that's like a better tactic of, if you can master it, of how to play Dark Souls. And I know I can do it because I've done it, but I just can't get back into that that habit at all. I'm always like now default to just whipping my shield out and blocking. So especially like, as I said, where I'm up to in Bloodborne is Lawrence. It's like I can't come back to that point.
Nah, start again.
Like after how much I've been playing Bloodborne, I can't go Dark Souls. Sorry, I can't go back to Bloodborne, and the first thing that I'm doing is fighting Lawrence. It's like no chance. Like no, not at all.
Especially after Sekiro as well, which is, you've been playing Sekiro as well. I've been playing Sekiro and Dark Souls, and like switching between those two is just like impossible. And so Sekiro's probably
you're not very good.
Sekiro's probably maybe similar to, it's somewhere kind of in the middle where it's kind of quick, but you can still block.
Yeah, you've got that like parry and that. I mean, obviously you have parries in Bloodborne, as Guff said, like with the gun. But if you've got like a group of people, that's not like a practical way to like fight anyone. Whereas in Sekiro, it kind of is. Like sometimes if you take on like two enemies at once in Sekiro, you can kind of deflect one and they stagger and deflect the other, and kind of you can manage it a bit more in like Bloodborne. But then Bloodborne does have that like kind of crowd control as well, because you can transform your weapon into like a bigger weapon. You have that kind of level, so the combat is really well thought out, and I think that's just, that's obviously like all a purposeful choice of going, we've made this game, very successful game. 2, but 2 is being made at the same time as Bloodborne, so
they seem like games that are made 10 years apart to me, playing them.
Yeah, it's mental that those two are kind of made at similar times, because when Bloodborne was 2015, let me just check when Dark Souls 2 was. Dark Souls 2, a year apart. That's
mad to me.
That's absolutely mental that those two games are a year apart. But yeah, sorry, Guff, just before we go on to you, I found that description for the shield. Oh no, he doesn't want to talk anymore. It's fine. Too busy on his phone with Sam. The wooden shield description is a crude wooden shield used by the masses who have arisen to join the hunt. So kind of the story behind that is there are like hunters that are specially trained to fight beasts, but the beasts get so out of hand that they have to kind of recruit just normies off the street to come and help. So they're like the masses. And then it says, hunters do not normally employ shields, ineffective against the strength of the beast, as they tend to be. Strength of... that doesn't really make sense. Japanese, isn't it? Weird translation. And then it said, shields are nice, but not if they engender passivity. So yeah, it's literally, as Guff said, it's telling you in the description, don't be a little bitch. Like, you don't... Like, this isn't what this game is. Which I just think, is really cool. But yeah, moving on kind of from like the combat kind of system, I just kind of wanted to touch kind of briefly on, it's not as much kind of linked into what I said about this isn't Dark Souls, but the kind of, within Dark Souls, you kind of feel sorry for a lot of the bosses. You kind of, go in at the end, you're not there like, I want to take this guy down. He's like a bad dude. He's the big bad at the end. I want to destroy him. I don't feel like there's a lot of bosses in there. Maybe like Seath, you kind of go, he's a bit of a, backstabbing the rest of the dragons. The rest of the bosses are just kind of like getting these, like, it's more like a means to an end within Dark Souls. Like, as in you're doing these things. Maybe like Aldrich as well, he's a bad person. But it's that kind of thing of just, you're doing it for the greater good. Like, you need to get these souls to...
The greater good.
Yeah.
The greater good.
I was going to say, Sam, do you want to say it as well? Yeah, like, you need to do this no matter if you're killing good or bad people, to, like the Abyss Watchers, again, as we touched upon, you just need to get these souls to either link the fire or not link the fire. And I find it really interesting in Bloodborne, that kind of, no one's like, the church is the shadiest thing ever in Bloodborne. And even the university is kind of maybe not doing the best of stuff. Maybe it's a little bit better, but they've got some stuff to answer for as well. And I kind of like that level as well, that it isn't just sticking to that thing of it is changing things up from Dark Souls in a very purposeful way, which I think is really cool.
I do think there's obviously still those tragic characters, like there's still those tragic stories in there, like one thing I really do quite like is I can't remember whose description it is, but it might be Cleric Beast's item drop. But is it where members of the Healing Church made the most terrible beasts?
Yeah, but the Healing Church are terrible people, so you don't care.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's like a cool, that's a whole thing that they're doing, which I think is cool. But there is those like sort of tragic characters in there, like Gascoigne's sort of story is.
It's the same as your story though.
Like
Gascoigne's, because he's taking the blood in the same way you taking the blood.
Much.
He's just gone mad with it.
Yeah, but it's very, it's very similar to, the sort of story of Dark Souls and things like that. Like, you have these characters who are all on the sort of same quest as you, but they go hollow, and they sort of go mad because of it. Well, because you are the playable character, you go hollow, but it doesn't necessarily drive you to madness. But I think, it's this sort of element of Bloodborne that you still get those characters in there. Like, but it's interesting that you don't. I might make a separate point about this actually later on, but like, there's not a lot of NPCs in Bloodborne that you attach to, but like, yeah, maybe I think more so though with Gascoigne, the story, obviously you sort of meet his daughter, who's like hiding. She gives you this like music box, and she's like, oh, if you can find my mum, because both my dad and my mum have gone missing, and then you defeat Gascoigne. And then you go to like the top of the building that's sort of behind his arena, and you find the body of a woman who has this red brooch that's sort of like, and that is obviously, it's a very clear story of what's happened, because Gascoigne has become mad and become a beast. But I would say his story is quite tragic. But like you say, a lot of the people in that story are just like, everyone in the. It feels very much like Silent Hill a little bit. Like everyone, this town is just awful. It's full of awful people doing awful things, and you are sort of like a traveller in this terrible place. But
can I just say, it is Spotlight, and you are Mark Ruffalo.
I think there is like there is more kind of what's the word, sympathy. Like, and I didn't touch on this in what my previous segment, which I probably should have done, was like the whole Hunter's Dream stuff, which is a really weird, ambiguous kind of thing. Like, what is the hunter's dream? And you get to touch on it quite a lot in the DLC. And there's loads of hunters in the hunter's dream who've gone like mad because of the blood and stuff. And for me, like, it's this kind of thing where, okay, the university and the healing church kind of set up this thing of using this blood, but it was kind of a thing of genuinely scientific interest, and like Willem kind of wanted to ascend to a god, and it kind of felt like it was pure, and the blood started, and then it was this, no one wanted to make beasts. It kind of happened, and then people kind of get stuck in this cycle, and there's like, it's like Gascoigne, and I think Lady Maria has one of the best, that's her name, right? She for me is one of the best bosses in the entire From Software series, because she's caught up in this with Gehrman, and she's like, Gehrman's the thing is, she's like, so Gehrman's like the firekeeper, I guess, of Bloodborne. He's the guy who runs the workshop, and she's kind of like his apprentice, and she kind of gets caught up in this and realizes she's made a horrible mistake, and then spends like the rest of her life caring for like these patients. And then when you meet her as a boss, she's already like slit her throat, basically. She's killed herself because of what she's done. And she's such a sympathetic character. And it's this kind of theme of like people are being stuck in this system that they can't like get out of. And I think there's bosses in Bloodborne like that for me, where they're kind of ambiguous characters, and you're not quite sure what their motives are, whether they were pure, whether they're just caught up in it, whether they're actually trying to use blood to actually help people or not.
Yeah, I think definitely like Lady Marie is my like favourite boss in Bloodborne, and probably my top 3 in kind of From Software games. But yeah, I think especially in as you said, the DLC, you do get to see what the church are doing, and as like an institute, it's that kind of thing of going, this is horrible. Like, there's so much bad going on here. But then it does, as you say, it does that brilliant thing of just putting in her story there, and you kind of defeat her, and it's not one where you're like, yes, I've defeated her. You're putting her out of her misery, sort of thing, kind of similar to Gascoigne, who still thinks he's doing the good work, but he is turning into a beast. So it is almost that thing of going, you kind of doing it for their kind of good, sort of thing. But I think as a whole, in terms of who the enemy is in terms of the game, or who kind of, as you kind of said, you're uncovering all this stuff about them. There's kind of more, for me anyway, of going, I know what side I'm on here, and who who I like, and who I don't like, and that sort of thing. But then you also get like Alfred, which I think is a really cool little storyline where
he goes fucking nuts.
You meet him, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That is a cool moment where you think he's dead chill, dead nice. He's like you. He's a beast hunter, and beasts need to be hunted. And I kind of probably, I can't think where the two storylines intersect, but maybe they must do at some point. But it depends on when you do Alfred's questline and stuff. You meet the guy in the Forbidden Woods. What's he called? He's one of the old hunters, and he wears like a tin hat thing with just one eye on it, and I can't think what it's called.
Yeah.
Velst? Is it
something like that? Isn't it?
Is it like Velstad or something like that? Anyway,
you meet him as well. Is it the League or something?
Yeah, the League. Yeah, and he kind of does seem like proper up for hunting beasts, and you're like, oh, this guy seems a bit.
It's vermin, isn't it?
Dodgy. Vermin, and you're kind of like, oh, he's a bit weird. But like Alfred feels a bit more kind of, doing it out of an obligation, a kind of some sense of higher purpose and duty. And then he just goes mental. He's like, no, he's mad. He's mad.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it was sort of a deliberate red herring with Alfred, because I feel like the way you meet him and like the sort of way he speaks and how polite and charming he is, I think he's almost supposed to be the Solaire, or he's like supposed to make you think like, oh, he's another hunter who's like actually quite well spoken. He has this mission, and he's like, oh, why don't you help me on this mission, sort of thing. And like, the Pale Bloods, I think that's what they're called, isn't it? Where it's like pretty much vampires, where it's like, the Pale Bloods, will, sort of fight them together kind of thing. And then I forget, is it, what's the name of the queen?
Vile Bloods.
Vile Bloods, sorry, not Pale Bloods, yeah. That was just such a deep fried sound effect.
I know. The guy's called Voltaire.
Yeah, Velstat's Isn't he someone from Dark Souls 2? Or
Yeah, he is. Yeah, it's just come up. I'm pretty sure it's Dark Souls 2.
But no, like with them when you're hunting the Vile Bloods, like again, like I think he's supposed to be set up like Solaire, like this NPC who you can be friends with, and go on a quest line with, and then he is just this fucking nutcase. It's like it goes from like 0 to 11 so quick. I think he's like he pulls a Palpatine at the end of Rise of Skywalker, and you just see him in a whole new getup. He's in a whole new costume. He's got a red hood. You're like, where's this come from? He's got a big fucking wheel. He's like, where's this come from? There's a lot going on with Alfred. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I think.
Speaking of like NPCs that kind of do like a weird, like a complete switch. There's Jura as well, the powder keg hunter, who you meet as you leave Old Yarnum, and he's shooting at you with like a minigun, and you think this guy's a prick. And then if you manage to meet up with him later in the game, you realise that he's protecting the beasts because he's saying the beasts are still people, and that's so he's part of the powder keg hunters. So they're like a brutal kind of, or he's kind of in some way affiliated with them, and they're like an offshoot, like a more brutal offshoot. So they have all the more like brutal weapons, like the cannon and the Gatling gun, and all these kind of weapons for hunting. And at some point, he obviously, there's like a theory that only some hunters can use the hunter's dream, and he's clearly one of them because he recognizes that you still dream, and he's sort of managed to get out of this cycle basically. But I think it's really nice that he's there defending these beasts who were obviously people just trying to cure their the Ashen blood by taking the blood from the whatever queen. I just think that's a really nice.
Yeah, you understand the story.
Well, it is. They're pumping blood in people to cure the disease, but it turns them into beasts. And he sort of. I really like that kind of switch where you realise that he's actually being a decent guy and just being like, actually, you can't just kill people. You can't just go around killing people. It's not great.
Just to say that Alfred and Slayer are actually voiced by the same actor.
I thought they were.
So I feel like
I knew that.
So that's like a really cool. It is a really cool detail because again, like this whole segment it's kind of them going, this isn't Dark Souls, but like expecting you to kind of play it in the same way. So you meet this character, whether it's voiced by the same person because you do your research, or you kind of just he has a similar tone. You kind of feel this is the Solaire character. We're nice and safe, and it goes, nah, he's nuts. And I just love that. I love that From Software, and we'll get onto this in the Sekiro episode as well, like next episode. I just love how they don't play it safe. Like they know what they're good at. They play around with these different things. They take what they do well and go, how can we do this different? How can we improve on it? How can we surprise people by giving them what they want, but also sticking to what our roots are? And I just think that's like a really just cool way of looking at it, that they're always trying to improve, they're always trying to innovate, and they like pick the right game mechanic for the right game. Like everything feels right within these games, I'd say. Having played like Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Sekiro, Bloodborne, the combat fits everything perfectly. And it's not just because they've gone, in this game, shall we do big axes and guns? Like, do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like a whimsical choice. It feels like a choice informed by the story and what's going on around them, which I just think is like really commendable, to not just play it safe and just keep churning out the same thing and having the same just slightly modified buttons. They've gone somewhere and gone, let's really take what we do, keep the mechanics there, but completely restrip it and build something else around it, which I think is cool.
Definitely.
But make it confusing enough so that when they change the buttons, you end up pressing heal in the wrong game because it swaps round.
Obviously.
Right, so this quiz, basically, it's the name them quiz. So I'm going to give you a topic, and you lot basically have to bid to see how many of them that you can name.
Cool.
So you can do it as a 3-way little thing if you want.
All right.
What,
a 3v3?
No, 1v1v1.
1v1, yeah. Not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna have low bids with it being Bloodborne. So
It's all right.
we shall see.
Sounds like none.
I've not really worked out how the scoring's going to happen, but if you lose,
Something
then
will happen.
don't know. Don't matter, does it? It's all
Disapproving look.
It's just fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
So first topic. There are 11 normal bosses in Bloodborne. This excludes great ones and the DLC bosses. How many can you name?
Wait, so what's it excluding? The great ones and DLC?
Yeah.
Is it excluding optional then?
No.
Right. Okay.
Can you sort of clarify what you mean by normal boss?
So it's a boss in Bloodborne that's not a great one. It's not in the DLC, and it's not Chalice Dungeon boss.
That's what you meant by normal, that it's non-DLC. And right, okay, I'm with you.
Non-DLC, non-great one, and not in the Chalice Dungeons.
I'm confusing fucking Dark Souls 3 and that in a minute.
That's not a good start.
No, I know.
Who wants to bid first?
There's three different games, so you can each bid first on one game.
Okay. Do you want to pick someone to go first?
Sam, you can go first because it's going to be low.
That's nice.
I reckon 5.
Oh, all right.
5, I reckon I could get. Yeah.
I'm gonna say 6, just purely competitive nature, but I don't think I'd get past that.
Go on, Matt. Go for all 11.
I'll go 7.
Oh.
Then.
Any advance?
So now the only option is an advance, or we call Matt on his bid.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I could go 8 at least. So.
Go on.
So
then,
am I
Matt.
going?
Go on then, Matt.
Okay. Cleric Beast.
Yeah.
Gascoigne.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to go through them like
As you come to them, yeah.
Yeah, kind of as you come
that's
to them.
what I was trying to do.
Shadows of Yharnam.
Yeah.
Vicar Amelia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was my impression, by the way.
What's he called? Witch of Hemwick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit! I thought that was Dark Souls 3. Oh, that's my bad. when I was thinking like a Dark Souls 3 one, I was like, oh, Witch of Hemwick's not that. Shit.
Mars Ligarius.
Yeah. 2 more.
Let's have.
Wait, I thought you said 7.
Did you?
No, I said.
Okay,
Yeah, I said
one more
7
then.
too. One more.
I mean, you could just say the one at the end of the game, Matt.
I'm generally pulling a complete blank on his name.
We've sort of
said it
mentioned
before.
it earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
I know we have, but I'm just
Granta's
actually
eyes.
completely
Oh, yeah.
blanking on his
That
name.
one as well. Actually,
Um,
it's quite. Shit, I could have got loads of these.
Yeah, I'm regretting my decision.
Oh my god. I want to know. I'm trying to think of the last person. What's he called? I can't think what.
Tonight.
What's he?
Oh my god! Could he make? Is it a chance he may not get it?
Nah,
I can't think-
he'll say one of them though.
Just say a different one.
I really want.
Please just say a different one.
End this
I'm
tournament.
kind of pulling a blank on a lot of the other ones now as well.
Pathetic.
I'm panicking.
Oh
Right,
my
you know
God.
what? I'm gonna mime one out.
No,
to you,
no, because we
on.
could steal this back.
Go on, man. No, she's a great one. She's a great one, Sam.
Is she?
I'm pretty sure she is because it
She count
says.
as one.
Or is she not? Because it does say dream
I thought.
like ended or something like that rather than prey slaughtered.
fair
That's
play,
a different
fair
thing
play.
on it. So I don't want to risk that. It just depends. Like if you're counting one of them as a great one, even though he's a false great one.
I would not count that.
No, I'm not going to.
I would count that as a great one.
I don't know what you're thinking about.
yes. The big spider. Right, let me think of someone else.
I thought you'd have. Oh no!
I really
yeah,
want to
'cause
come
you can't-
steal this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
no.
give you
Well,
10
I mean,
seconds.
we're both thinking.
You don't.
You've got 10 seconds.
'Cause I think I could get 8 now. That's the thing.
Let me think of
5,
someone.
4, 3,
I don't know what he's called.
1.
Geralt? No, what's he called?
That's the guy from
What's
The
he called?
Witcher.
Do
What's
I
he
only have to say
called?
1 to steal this?
No, that's not how the game
No,
works.
you and Sam get the points. So you can have a point each.
Oh,
What's he
right.
called?
German.
Right, so
German.
Are we giving it him?
Too late.
No,
Fucked
he
it.
said Geralt.
Yeah, and then I said German.
So wait, who else counts then? So does Murgo's
So,
wet nurse not count?
Do you want a
as well?
list?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Bloodstarf
Come on.
Beast, Cleric Beast,
Oh,
Dark
yeah,
Beast
yeah.
Paul, Father Gascoigne,
Yeah,
German, Mikolash, Marcel Garius, One Reborn, Shadow of Yarnum, Vicar Amelia, Witch of Hemwick.
It's pronounced.
That's fair.
It's
Yeah,
it's
so Rom
pronounced
doesn't count, even though he
Nikolash.
Very good.
even though Rom's not a real great one,
Yeah,
doesn't count.
I guess.
Next,
So all the other ones. So wait, even like the Living Failures, they count as great ones, even though they're just little gimp.
do you want to save these
little-
questions for the next list? Which
Oh,
are,
sorry.
there are 6 Great One bosses in Bloodborne.
Carry on, Rob.
Can you name all 6?
Well, we could.
Between
Guff,
them,
you can
maybe.
go first this time.
How many? 6.
6. Again, not including DLC.
I'm gonna. Oh, see, that's where I'm like with
You know what,
some. Of
I
the,
don't even know what counts
yeah,
as DLC.
I might say I'm gonna try and say 4.
Matt?
Can I match or?
No, you got to go above, or just tell him to do it.
No, because I feel like he could get that.
Say 5 then.
This is gonna be painful, but yeah, go on then 5.
Matt, have you got a bid?
Go on, name him.
Yeah,
No, I'm not going 6.
he's gonna
gonna
let me.
get
He's gonna let me go for it. Aren't you?
I might try and go for
Yeah.
6.
Wait, Guff going for 6?
Yeah.
No, go on.
Is he actually?
I'll go for 7.
That's how this works. Let's go for a straight 11.
Just get to make one up.
Right. So
Who's going? You're
what am I
going.
gonna do?
Guff,
Yeah,
yeah, he's
all
gone for
6.
6.
Right, okay.
I've actually forgot his name straight away. The pressure gets to you, doesn't it? Shit.
Yeah, it does.
It's a good start.
If he doesn't
Strong
get
start. come in hot.
You just said it, the wet nurse. I can't remember the actual name of it. It's gone. Why does it all go? Why does it all leave your head straight away? Oh my god.
Name another one.
Go,
Surely you
go
can
for
get
different
one.
one.
I
Yeah.
was going to say Orphan and Cos, but that's DLC.
Oh,
Doing well in your 6.
This
here,
is
mate, aren't
really poor. This is really poor.
Did you not list these in your head before you said 6?
Yeah, and they've just flown away. The moon one.
I mean, you've got half the name.
Yeah. I actually can't think of its name. I can't. I'm so angry at myself.
Wow.
him a count now.
Wow.
That's so lazy though, because if I don't do any, they get the point.
Come on,
Yeah.
you can get 1.
So now
Well,
I've
no, if you
lost
don't get
regardless.
Oh, he's going to get 6.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not getting
get
6,
one.
are you?
I know, but it's more pride at this
fuck
point.
me. I actually forgot all the names. They've flown away.
What's the big
Do you want-
spider boy?
Do you want some help, mate?
Yeah, go on then. For content,
Do you-
let's get
Do you want me just to name some?
Yeah, go on then.
Right. Rom,
That's the one. That's
Yeah.
what.
Ebritus,
Mhm.
Ebritus, Murgo's Wet Nurse,
Murgo's Wet Nurse. That's it.
Living Failures.
Living Failure. That's the one you just said.
They're
no,
DLC.
that flew away.
They're DLC.
Are they DLC?
Oh, the DLC.
What are the
Moon Presence?
Moon Presence is
Yeah.
one.
That's the fucking.
The Celestial Emissaries.
Oh, that's probably what I'm thinking.
And
They're the ones that run after you, aren't they?
who's the last one?
Amygdala.
Oh.
Yeah, of course.
There we go.
Well, that was upsetting.
So has everyone got? Sam's
Yeah,
got 2.
Yay! I'm winning
You've
by
both got
default.
one.
I'm winning by default.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing a game, playing a
See?
good defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, there are 5 DLC bosses.
DLC bosses.
Okay.
Matt, you get first bid.
You're up first.
I'll go big. I think I can do all 5.
Ooh.
Yeah, I reckon you can as well.
Yeah.
Go on then, lad. We've actually wait. Have we named?
We've named most of them already.
I think we've named 4 of them already.
I mean, that's on you lot, to be fair.
Yeah, not bad.
so
Go for it.
Orphan of Cos, Lady Maria, Living Failures, Lawrence, and Moonlight Greatsword Boy.
Oh.
What's it
Yeah,
called?
how you?
I know it. I know it.
I've got him. I've got him.
Yeah.
Ludwig.
Yeah, boy.
There you go.
It's a good game. Good
Fair
game.
Also, I like how Guff's like, oh, you're bottling it. You're bottling it. You didn't get one, mate.
No, honestly though, I feel that pressure because that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like when I was sat right here, listening to you say them, I was like, I know all these names, and then they flew away. I don't know how that happened.
Mate,
No, you couldn't tell, so it's all right.
Mate, watching you do that has made me worry about how you like survive in society under pressure.
Yeah, not well. Arguably, not well. Well, thank God this quarantine is inside.
Yeah. All right, I think that's the end of the episode. Yeah, unless anyone's got anything else they want to say about Bloodborne.
Good, innit?
Nah, just that it's good, yeah.
Yeah, I want to play
Totally
it.
good.
Just sort of honourable mentions. Shout out to Redgrave. Go give that a read. I would imagine it's an absolute belter. I'm gonna go give that a read. Vatty. I'm actually decided I'm gonna go watch because I've not seen that full Bloodborne breakdown. I'm gonna go watch that tonight.
So I don't think Fatty needs a shout out, to be fair, from us.
He can give us one.
I'm just spreading the word, man.
Anyone else want to shout out?
My mum.
Eileen the Crow.
Eileen's
Love
good,
you.
isn't she?
Yeah.
Eileen is
Come
good.
on, Eileen.
She's a good egg. She's a good egg. Yeah. All right, yeah, so that's the end of the episode. Go and follow us in all the social medias below, and we'll be back next week talking about Sekiro.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Ciao.